So we find ourselves in a tag match here for you at WrestleMania. Some creative ideas are floated around, and Jim Cornette gives you a call, and you wrote this in your book. I received a phone call at home from Jim Cornette. He was all excited. Cactus, he said, in his high-pitched Louisville lingo. I know you haven't been in the mix that much, but dadgum, I think we've got something for you. What is it, Corny? Well, Cactus, we're thinking of doing a little something where Marc Mero and Rena continue their little spat, and you don't like it, so you deck Mark. You want Rena with your little group, but Uncle Paul doesn't like it, so you deck Paul. Now, Paul still doesn't like Rena, but he knows he has to tolerate her for your sake, and the three of you will have your own little strange family. So I'll just stop right there. But at this point, you had to hate every bit of this, right?
I did.
Yeah.
I did. I don't want to make my words so lukewarm that we stink up the place here. But I also want to preface what I'm about to say by saying Marc Mero is one of the great ex-wrestlers of all time. Meaning what he does, talking to schools, he's phenomenal. But that the wild man character wasn't.
It's a miss.
It was a miss. And what added fuel to the fire, I'm talking about the fire in my gut, and I think I could speak for Steve Austin. Also, at this time, Mark had come in just shortly after Steve and only days after I came in. And whereas I signed for an opportunity, Mark got a guaranteed contract and a pretty sizable one. And that, it fueled me in a positive way, but it was this negativity that we fed off of and channeled it in positive ways. So I did not want to be in an angle with Mark because I just didn't. I thought my character connected with a lot of different characters, and they didn't have to be. I mean, it could be straight, like straight men, wrestlers. I worked really well with a guy like Bret Hart, or character-driven wrestlers. I didn't feel like I could do something solid with Mark. And I should have, looking back on it now, Rena was really on the rise at that time as Sable. And she would go on to be a veritable superstar. That could have been really interesting. But I think I know that before my Mind Games match with Sean, originally I was supposed to be slotted in for a match with Mark. And the company really was behind him at that time. Vince had pressure to make the investment work. Look like it was a good one. And I didn't want to be, I wasn't excited about it. I wasn't in a position where I could say no, but I don't know what changed behind the scenes where I went from singles with Marc Mero to a singles with Shawn Michaels, but that worked out to my favor.
Yeah, hell yeah.
And again, just Marc Mero, and I've personally apologized to him for taking shots at him over the years, and it was purely out of financial jealousy, as is, anything I would have said about Rena, in the years later was purely out of jealousy, part of it, financial, and part of it, going to autograph shows where her line would be 5 times what mine was. It hurt, it hurts guys like me. But she was a veritable superstar on the rise, and that could have been a good angle, but I did not want to be I get a sinking feeling, like I'm a gut player too. When your heart sinks into your stomach, that's a sign that something's not right about it. I could be elated after a talk with, and Corny's a good salesman, right?
Yeah, hell yeah.
And Corny was often the bearer of bad news when it came to, he was the guy who would deliver the news to me. He was the guy who told me after I did these vignettes as Mankind that were a big hit with everyone except Vince.
Yeah.
And I said, but Jimmy, Vince said he loved my promos. And he hesitated and said, Cactus, I'm not sure Vince has ever seen one of your promos, which was still strange to me. And I know we've talked about that in the past. It would feel like a guy who micromanages everything would take that extra 10 minutes to look at a highlight tape, or maybe even an hour. If this guy's going to be one of the backbones of the company, maybe you should take that hour to watch a few promos, a few matches, and really get a better grasp on what you have. But Vince is a gut player. What he sees on that 13-inch monitor the first time you walk into his ring is what your future is based on.
Talking about Mero for a minute, did you have any interaction with him in WCW? I mean, you guys were there for a long time.
Yeah, we were there, and we were good friends. I remember Mark and Rena would be at Sting's gym. Sting and Luger had Main Event Fitness. Mark and Rena coming to Dewey's birthday party. So I consider Mark a good friend. And what he was doing with Johnny B. Bad was tremendous. And he also showed that he can then make himself a valuable commodity. You know, rumor had it that Jane Fonda saw some of the great work that Mark was doing on his own, speaking to groups of kids. It's always been something in his heart.
Yeah.
And that was part of the reason why he ended up with such a great contract in WCW. So no question that was a great fit. Here's a Jewish kid from upstate New York playing a black man from Macon, Georgia.
Yes.
And somehow making it work. I remember saying there was a guy named Frank Polera, who was a huge boxing enthusiast, who went to college with me in Cortland, New York. And Marc Mero had knocked out one of his guys. Maybe he defeated Razor Ruddock. He'd beaten somebody who was a really big deal in professional boxing. And I said, yeah, Marc Mero, he beat Razor Ruddock. And he goes, but Mero's a white guy. He didn't know Marc Mero was Johnny B. Bad. And so when I told him that, the guy playing Johnny B. Bad had beaten Razor Ruddock, he said, Mero's a white guy. So Mark spent so much time in that tanning bed that he accurately portrayed a flamboyant black man. Did it very well, to the point where Vince became a big fan of that character, and he was really rolling. But I didn't have anything. I don't even know if we had a match. Don't even know if we had a match when I was in WCW.
But I mean, he's coming to your kid's birthday party, so your quote unquote heat with him is really with the company, that they really believed in him more than they believed in you.
Yeah, exactly. And that it hurt. I remember Steve and Austin and I commiserating over it, but it was a positive. You know, I don't know if I could have reached the heights I did without that little kick in the butt.
How much of that really came down to leverage too, in that, you know, you didn't jump right from WCW to the WWF, and nor did Steve.
Yeah.
So maybe they felt like, well, hey, he'll take it, or, you know, as JR likes to say, go shop your resume.
Yeah.
Whereas when Mero comes, he created a little bit of a low-key bidding war between both sides.
Yeah.
And
he did. Keep in mind, what I had going on was I was working for ECW.
Yes.
Doing some good stuff there. I was in IWA Japan, pulling down $3,000 a week, which is really $3,000 for 10 days because there are 3 days of travel, and coming home in really rough shape.
Burn up,
yeah, especially in August. But even before then, coming home with the wounds that I said a doctor, you know, described as looking like I'd been part of a prison break, or saying he'd only heard about injuries like these in prison breaks. And even when IWA Japan wanted to keep me there and wanted to put me under contract, they were going to bump me up by $500 a week. So you'd be looking at 10 tours a year for $3,500. Not great money, considering what you're doing to earn it. And so this isn't a case where, you know, you've got a Hansen or Brody contract in All Japan and you can make your living there in 20 weeks and then kind of take it easy, take some indies, do whatever you want to do. Stan later went on to be part of WCW, you know, I think on $1,000 a night guarantee. But big guys like that who worked a really physical style usually had time to recuperate. Whereas I would come home, my wife, I remember one night my wife met me at JFK with the kids. We drove to Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania. The kids were sleeping. So I went in, did my match with Sandman at the same arena that New Jack tried to throw Taz through the window, like out onto a 50-foot drop. And this was Taz in a neck brace after breaking his neck. But I was back from Japan and on the road just about every single weekend. You know, you had to make hay while the sun shines.
There you go.
There you go.
Hey, you're a Southerner.
You got to do it. Yeah.